So let's talk about fiber first. Most of us do not get enough fiber in our diet. In fact, it's recommended that we get about 25 to 38 grams of fiber a day, and North Americans really only get about 11 to 14, so we're falling really short. And so there's a lot of things we should be doing to kind of bridge that fiber gap. And the reason why fiber is so important is because fiber acts like fuel for our gut microbiota. Certain types of fiber make its way through our digestive tract and actually feed the bacteria in our guts. And these are called microbiota accessible carbohydrates. So whatever we can't digest, our gut microbiota actually digests for us. And when they're able to do that, they produce beneficial compounds called short-chain fatty acids. Now, this is going to be a real buzzword coming up. I think people are going to be very interested in how they can get more of these microbe-made molecules in their gut. And this is because they play a really important role in maintaining our gut barrier, which is kind of like our first line of defense against anything that comes through the gut. It also plays a really important role in our immune function. And then these short-chain fatty acids also act as anti-inflammatory compounds and help to fuel important cells in our gut and give us energy. And so, of course, people are wondering, how do I get more fiber in the diet? Well, there's a lot of really simple and easy ways to bridge that fiber gap without kind of counting and adding up how much fiber we get in our diet. So some of my favorite tips include things like swapping white or processed grains for whole grains. And inherently by doing that, you're going to be upping your fiber intake. So some whole grains that I like to swap out include things like choosing more whole grain pasta, more whole grain or sprouted grain bread, and ancient grains like quinoa, bulgur, and even things like oats to really up our intake of fiber. Of course, right now, a lot of people are interested in low carbohydrate diets, but as a gut health dietitian, I don't typically suggest those because inherently we're cutting out a big source of fiber, which of course is our whole grains, starchy vegetables, and a lot of different fruits. My second tip is actually to get in about half of your plate of vegetables at lunch and supper every day. And so instead of measuring and counting, getting in half your plate helps to ensure that you're getting in a good variety of those vegetables and that also you're getting in extra fiber. And so a lot of times when people think of vegetables, they think they need to have steamed plain vegetables, and really that's not very exciting. And so what we typically recommend is actually cooking vegetables in a way that's really fun and palatable. And so I like to encourage people to roast, steam, or saute their vegetables and make sure they're using plant-based oils, so things like olive oil, to really add to the palatability. They can also add seasonings, herbs, and spices to really up the flavor and really highlight vegetables as the star of the dish. My third tip is around nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds are not only a good source of fiber, but they also contribute heart-healthy fats. And we now see that intake of these fats is actually associated with better digestive health and an improvement or a positive change in the gut microbiota. So I like to encourage people to include a couple of tablespoons a day of nuts and seeds. Some of my favorite ways to do that is including ground flax in my smoothie, spreading peanut butter on some whole grain toast, or even snacking on things like cashews or almonds. My fourth tip is around choosing more meatless meals. So this is really upping our intake of plant-based protein and reducing our intake of red and processed meats. A lot of North Americans don't typically include these sorts of things in our diet. And so I like to start with some basic ways to up our intake of pulses. So that's beans, peas, and lentils. And so some easy ways to do that is making minestrone soup, which we can use white kidney beans in, or potentially making a vegetarian chili, which we can use red kidney beans or chickpeas in. Another really easy tip is to swap out half of your ground meat in a recipe for canned, drained, and rinsed lentils. This is a really great fiber booster, and it helps to save on groceries because it's going to reduce some of the costs there too. My last tip is around variety. So we say variety is the spice of life, not only for us, but also our gut microbes. I like to say that our gut microbes are kind of like picky eaters. Different bacteria like to snack on different fibers. And so really getting variety in our diet is going to help to ensure that we have a nice, diverse bacterial population in the gut. And so as a rule, I like to say for patients to aim for 30 different plant-based foods a week. And so when it comes to including in plant-based foods, 30 sounds like a lot. But actually, when you go to add it up and be purposeful about it, it's actually not too hard to hit. For example, this morning I had a smoothie for breakfast, so that had blueberries, spinach, and ground flax in it. For lunch, I had a stir fry, so it had brown rice, edamame, bok choy, and then I added in a handful of nuts. And so I have a variety of different plant-based foods there. When it comes to adding these up, it's just something we need to be mindful and purposeful about, but actually hitting that target is not too hard.